priceless experiences. Napa Valley wine tasting, spoiling my women friends. Sitting at the table with millionaires. The narrative is tax loops, accounts offshore squares. It's not allowed.
Check. What it do? Welcome back to Coin Gang, everybody. What's going on? My name is Ken Billions. If you didn't know, what's going on to all my peoples out there? You are at the right place at the right time. This is the number one home for personal development. This is ministry for the abstract mind. If you can see me, press 1. And if you can hear me, press 2. And if everything is good on your end, we're going to do what we came here to do, and that is stimulate the mind, change the conversation, kill old ideals, and embrace new ones. How you guys doing today? Happy Friday, everybody. Happy Friday. Hopefully you are safe and loved wherever you at. Hopefully you are got some weekend plans and in-house cleaning, do some studying, do some mental work. What it do? How was your week? What's good? Like I said, this is the number one place for personal development. This is ministry for the abstract mind. This is a safe space for everybody out there that got that out the box philosophy. You know, we're real clear on what it is we do here. This is ministry for the abstract mind, not the binary mind. My name is Ken Billions. If you didn't know, what it do, y'all? How y'all doing? Glad to be here. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, so I appreciate you. Keep your babies close to you. You always hear me say that, but I mean it. Keep your babies close to you. Shout out to my family. Appreciate you. I don't know what currency that is, but I appreciate it. I love to put threes on top of twos and fours on top of threes and tens on top of nines. So I definitely appreciate you for already putting money on the wood. Whatever currency this is, I'm going to take it. I appreciate you coming through. But take that and buy me more cool shirts. Appreciate you, family. Keep your babies close, and whoever is in your life trying to love on you, please let them, because this relationship thing, this love thing, I want to talk about that today, is not easy, especially when you are living inside of the production. You know, we always talk about the world stage, and this is kind of a conversation like that. If you're on Facebook and you support what I do, you like what you hear, make sure you click that little heart thingy at the bottom on the right. That is your supporter badge. If you're on YouTube, Cash App is your friend, Super Chat is your friend, membership is your friend. And I believe I'm getting the dates correctly. Next Sunday. Appreciate you, family. Appreciate you. Appreciate all the love. You know what I'm saying? Anything y'all putting down in a world of inflation, in a world of supply chain issues, I definitely appreciate you, right? I appreciate the ones and I appreciate the hundreds. Appreciate you. Next Sunday, we will do our first masterclass. It's going to be about maybe 5 to 6 weeks, and that is how the body bag builds. So if you are a member to Coin Gang Ministries, whether through Facebook, YouTube, or you're on kenbillions.com, you will receive a link to the group. It'll be a private group, and that is basically how to be a presenter or content creation. Or if you like what I do, I'm going to show you the nooks and crannies, the A to Z on how to talk to people, how to present. I'm going to show you what kind of format that I use to do what it is that I do. So we're going to start our first class next Sunday, and that's only for the members. Shout out to everybody else, but membership has its perks. So next Sunday, we will start our first class on how to body bag build. This is a master class that is going to go all month of May, and that is just for my members because I love them. Today's build is, what we're talking about is understanding production. Understanding production is very important because we're living production. Things that we think is natural is based on production. And then those things that are unnatural, can become natural, become normal because of the way things are produced. And we're going to look at production and understand how art becomes reality. We're going to talk about words and concepts. We're going to deal with the meanings that we assign. Okay, we assign meaning to things, and each meaning is different per person. So a lot of things aren't static. Like if I say love, everybody has what they have in their mind, but is that the definition? Or if I say God, there's a meaning that we assign to it. Okay, and we're going to talk about the weapons of war. We're going to do some reading today, and our book of the day is the Kybalion. This is very important. This book is very important because we're going to dismantle the weaponization of femininity and masculinity. And that's our topic today. The weaponization of femininity and masculinity. And we are going to use the Kybalion to do it, because the people that talk about masculinity and femininity, they are not Hermeticists. They are not into any occult teachings. They don't study anything esoteric. When they use femininity and masculinity, it is a way to weaponize. It is a way to get the advantage in certain behavior. Okay, so we are going to use the Kybalion to body that shit, because they're not using it in its proper context. Because masculinity and femininity have nothing to do with my beard. There can't be a war on masculinity. You know why? Because masculinity technically is not physical, right? You can't see it. You can't point to it and be like, oh, wow, there's masculinity. Oh, wow, there's femininity. No. It's a little different than that. You guys ready? I have a question. What is real and how do you know? How can you tell the difference between something that's real and something that's fake? How do you know the difference between real and fake? How do you know the difference between reality, what is and what ain't? Can you tell? Can you tell? The brain cannot tell the difference between fantasy and reality. For example, when I imagine running, evidence shows my brain reacting in large part as if I'm actually running. This helps explain why using imagination and fantasy is a powerful tool for feeling better. So, is masculinity and femininity fantasy? Or is it actually something real? Is femininity and masculinity, is that something that is just part of our imagination? Or is that something that is actually real? What do y'all think? Is this a real thing? Because we seem to a lot of conversations about this, but it would be vexation of spirit if this shit is not real. Are we making this stuff up as we go? Or is it concrete? Because if the brain cannot tell the difference between a fantasy and reality, is it possible that we are stuck in fantasy? Our subconscious mind have no sense of humor, play no jokes, and cannot tell the difference between reality and imagined thought or image. What we continually think about eventually will manifest in our lives. So, with that being said, is femininity and masculinity real because we make it real, or is it an actual thing? If the brain cannot determine what's real and what's fake, then how do we know what we're doing is actually real? How do we know? Like, what's the marker to determine if something is real or if something is fake? How do we tell? Because if masculinity and femininity aren't real, then you mean to tell me that we're having argues about fantasy? We're having back and forth barbershop and salon conversations about fantasy. Oh, you're carrying too much masculine energy. Oh, you're carrying too much feminine energy. Or these are feminine men, or these are masculine women. I would hate to find out that what we're doing is playing in a fantasy realm, and what we're talking about and what we're assigning meaning to is not even nothing that you can actually touch. Because masculinity and femininity, I'll be honest with you, these are not conversations I grew up hearing. This is a very new conversation, which is fine. Nothing wrong with the new. But what is it though? What is it? Because I see people that don't even read books talk about masculinity and femininity. I see people that don't even meditate, don't even hike, don't even be in nature, talk about masculinity and femininity as if it's an actual thing. But when we get deep into the occult, and when we get deep into Hermetics, we start to see that these concepts that we're playing with are not new, but they have been perverted. And the way they are being interpreted and put out to the public is actually weaponizing this shit. And it's making people go crazy. First off, masculine and feminine are just words. That's all they are. Words that we assign meaning to. Nothing happened that said, hey, I'm masculine. Hey, I'm feminine. No, they're just words that we assign meaning to. But the thing about words is, what do words create? Words create worlds. So the world that we live in is based on the words that we use. Words create worlds. If you want to create a new world in your life, then you use words. You begin to command. You begin to say, I am. Many of you are into affirmations. Affirmations is you creating a world. You opening up a timeline that doesn't exist, using the power of speech. Words have shapes and colors to them. When you say something out of your mouth, that energy has to bump into something. And when it bumps into something, it begins to manifest, right? So masculinity and femininity are manifesting only because we are assigning a meaning to it. That's it. What is the meaning that we're assigning to it, though? So you have words, and then you have concepts, okay? So a concept would be the vehicle for the word, would be the shell, right? So you have an ideal, you say it, it becomes a concept, and it starts to move around. It starts to travel, right? It becomes like an object. A skill is to see the world conceptually. When we're talking about masculinity and femininity, if you're going to use it in its literal forms, then you have to start to see it as a concept, not as a static thing. Oh, that's masculine behavior. That's feminine behavior. And then we start to associate gender to it. But I ask you, is a shark feminine? Can a giraffe be masculine? And what many of you do, you'll begin to associate human behavior with the giraffe or shark. So if it's a male giraffe, you'll say, oh yeah, he's being masculine because he's, quote, dominant. And you associate that with man. And if the female does the same behavior, you associate her with acting like a man or acting masculine, right? But both male and female are two parts. It's easy for a dude to act like a girl. You know why? It's because he comes from a girl and it's inside of him already. So he's male and female on the inside. It's easy for a girl to act like a guy. Why? Because she has the pole inside of her already. Very, very simple. You have too much masculine energy. What do you mean by that? It's already in the person. They didn't get it from nowhere, right? Because we're dealing with poles. Now, that's in the literal sense. Later, we'll talk about it in the metaphysical sense. But words and concepts, this masculine and feminine talk is just words that have created a world that we have put inside of a vehicle and pushed and started the engine. And now what we have is a world of spheres. Okay, that's how we see the world. That's masculine, that's feminine. We'll even give colors, masculinity and femininity. We give certain behaviors, masculinity and femininity. But all that has to do with social behavior, has nothing to do with metaphysics. Question, and I need help from the chat. Which one here in this picture is feminine and which one here in this picture is masculine? Who's masculine in the picture and who's feminine? Be honest. What do you think? Come on, come on, come on. Somebody help me. Who do you believe is masculine in this picture? And who do you believe is feminine in this picture? Look at the picture real good. Look like they're having a great time. Teeth is showing. Nothing but gums. Who's masculine? Who's feminine? Okay. Shout out to brother Rob. He said the guy is masculine. Cool. Both. They're both masculine and feminine. Okay. Dope. Both. Anybody else? Anybody else? He's feminine. Okay. Shout out to Sydney. Sydney says that he's feminine. Real quick, Sydney, can you tell me why you say he's feminine? Is she feminine too? Are they both masculine? Both feminine? She's masculine, he's feminine. He's feminine, she's feminine. Why do you say that he's masculine? So the question on the table is, which one of them is masculine? Which one of them is feminine? Okay, because he's holding on for her for dear life. So does that make him feminine? Okay, let's just say this is real. Now, what if he is holding on to dear life, right? What if she's an FBI agent and she's actually trained to kill? He's not, though. Is she in the masculine position? Is he in the feminine position? If she is trained to take life, right? And he's holding on for dear life, is he therefore feminine? The man is feminine. Why? So she would be masculine. Okay, right? That's because we're associating certain behaviors with specific things. So that means we have created masculinity and femininity because we're looking at certain things in people and associating a meaning to it or assigning a meaning to it. Right? That's because all I see is two people smiling. That's all I see. Two people smiling. Now, what happens is people will associate him holding on to her because it could be protection and say he's a protector, therefore he's masculine. and she's allowing him to protect, therefore she's feminine. But is that the correct thing though? What if it's just two people smiling? What if they're both masculine, both feminine at the same damn time? This is important that we understand how to think, because we associate or assign meanings to things. And when we assign a meaning to something, it becomes a world. And when it becomes a world, we get trapped in the meanings that we create. You know how somebody says, man, you can't label me or you can't box me in? That's because of the world. The worlds we create from the words we use begin to trap us there, and we can't move. Okay. So, Brother Rob, posture. Would you say there's a such thing as a masculine posture? What's up, fam? There should be a button that says join. When you join, that'll give you YouTube membership on YouTube, and that'll put you in the master class. So expression, it's a good one. So expression. Is there a masculine expression from a human and a feminine expression? What does that mean exactly? What does that mean? The smile. Can a smile be masculine, and can a smile be feminine? It's important that we think about this, is because we create our own prisons with the ideals that we conceive. And then those ideals just, it becomes cement, and we just pass them on into generations. We don't know where things come from. Now, let's say we say that the man is masculine, the woman is feminine, right? So if a man is not looking like this, then he's not masculine. And if a woman's not looking like this, then she's feminine. What we are doing is weaponizing it, like we're doing now in the world. We have weaponized something that is esoteric, something that doesn't even mean what we think it means. And we'll get into that in a sec. And it has become a weapon of war. To now we're cutting each other, to now we're trying to figure out how to put each other in respective places. Shout out to you. Appreciate it. Okay. I have a picture. Does anyone know who this woman is? I brought her up on my channel before. Does anyone know who she is? Because this woman is instrumental in how we see the world. She was a woman of great power. And the way that she's seen the world has affected us to this day. Anyone know who she is? Because she's a very important person in history. She has probably more effect on the way that you see the world than your mother and father. And you probably have never heard of who she is. That's how powerful culture is. When you begin to get absorbed in someone else's culture, you get absorbed in their world, right? And then their culture begins to overlap and create a timeline in your culture. So much so that when generations after you, people are going to assume that this is the way that you're supposed to live. And this individual here is definitely responsible for how people should live and are living. Shout out to the smartest chat on the internet. Yes, this is Queen Victoria. Queen Victoria is responsible for how you see the world, probably more than your parents. I'm bringing her up for a reason, because what we are talking about towards each other has everything to do with the Victorian period and how she socially engineered men and women. Men nor women are in their actual natural state. What we are all in is production. We think it's real. But behind the scenes, everyone's like, man, I don't know, man. I don't know if that works for me. I don't know about this. I don't know about that. And the people that are going to push the ideal are the people that benefit from it. They don't give a damn who don't benefit from it, right? So this is Queen Victoria. Okay? Important person in history. And what we're going to do is look over the Victorian period regarding so-called gender roles. And that period has nothing to do with Hermeticism, which is very important because Hermeticism deals with natural law. Natural law and social law are not the same. Natural law is things we observe in nature that's already fixed in it already. Social law is those people in power in music, artists, or influencers saying how humans should live, but it's not based on nothing natural. It's not based on natural gender. It's not based on mentalism, correspondence, polarity, rhythm, vibration, or duality. Here's an example of natural law. Pen in my hand. What man observed is there is a force pulling on things. This is natural law. It's not discovered, it's observed, right? When I let my hand go, you know why it's a law? Because if you conduct the same experiment, you're going to get the same outcome. If you take an object in your hand, let it go, a force is going to pull it down. They call that force gravity. In the future, they may call it something else. But what we have observed is that there's a force pulling down. In this book, you have something called correspondence, or as above, so below. What that means is it observed that the higher I go and the lower I go, it has the same properties. Pressure, right? As above, so below. That whatever exists high exists low. That is not a creation. That is an observation. And what we're going to look at is the Victorian period is a creation for people to live. A creation for a way for people to live. It's not based on nothing natural. Right? And what many people are doing, you're carrying unnatural conversations and weaponizing them. All right? Y'all ready? So we're going to do some reading. The words are a little small, so bear with me. And what we're going to look at is Queen Victoria and the Victorian period. And her views are baked into American society. All right? So this is the women and sex during the Victorian period. Now, mind you, for the young ladies out there to say patriarchy, 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 I got you. Remember, this is coming out of the mind of a queen. Okay? And what she thinks how women should live. All right? Now, I've talked about Hammurabi. Today, I'm going to talk about Queen Victoria. All right? It starts as, The most common way to characterize a society at a given time is to divide it in social class and evaluate the difference between each group. However, the period known as the Victorian era in England from 1837 to 1901 witnessed such polarized gender roles that it can also be analyzed according to the different functions assigned. Remember, I talked about what we assign meaning to. The different functions assigned to men and women, more commonly known as, write this down, the ideology of separate spheres. Here's an example of the ideology of separate spheres. Masculine does this. Feminine does that. Do you see what it's in? Spheres. The ideology of separate spheres. So what we are existing in and what we are talking about are spheres. Men do this, women do that. That's not necessarily natural, because what we do naturally is use the bathroom. We both do that. There is no negotiation. You got to go, you got to go. What we both need is food, clothes, and shelter. That's natural. The woman, a baby, a young female child is born already pre-coded to go through a biological situation where she has a menstrual cycle. The male is also born with something in his biology, which is foreskin, but it's chopped off. So the female keeps her biology intact. The male's is cut off. Okay? This is an example of separate spheres. All right? Let's get to it. Okay. The separate spheres framework holds that men possess the capacity for reason, action, aggression, independence, and self-interest, thus belonging to the public sphere. Women inhabited a separate private sphere, one suitable for so-called inherent qualities of femininity, emotion, passivity, submission, dependence, and selflessness, all derived, it was claimed, instantly from women's sexual and reproductive organization. Now, this is coming out of the minds of people. Nothing natural. You understand? Separate spheres? Isn't that what they just said right here? Human beings have separated men and women based on things that are not natural. Because a dude can be intuitive, generous, nurturing, creative, collaborative, caring, receptive, grateful. And a woman can be logical, confident, focused, strong, stable, assertive. Right? You see how words create worlds? Now, the generations that come after these spheres are going to be forced to live inside of the sphere, even if the world is not natural to them. Even if the female is logical, she's going to be forced to be intuitive. Even if the woman is confident, she's going to be forced to be nurturing. Even if the man is caring, he's going to be forced to be strong. By force, not by choice. So keep in mind the separate spheres conversation, because as we dig through this article, you're going to see what I'm talking about. Following such principles allowed men allegedly controlled by their mind or intellectual strength. Following such principles allowed men allegedly controlled by their mind or intellectual strength to dominate society, to be governing sex, given that they were viewed as rational, brave, and independent. Women, on the other hand, were dominated by their sexuality and were expected to fall silently into the social mode crafted by men, since they were regarded as irrational, sensitive, and dutiful. As Susan Kent observed, women were so exclusively identified by their sexual functions that 19th century society came to regard them as the sex. This essay will examine the Victorian social institutions of marriage, motherhood, law, prostitution, and conventional sexual values from a bourgeoisie woman's point of view, all of which played roles in hindering women in day-to-day life and furthered the notion of women as being governed solely by their reproductive systems. Haven't we carried that same viewpoint into society today? When we talk about relationships, we only talk about mothers, women being mothers. This is where this comes from. We talk as though that's the natural way that humans have lived for millions of years, and it's not. All cultures in the world didn't judge a woman based on her ability to reproduce. All cultures didn't associate that with femininity. Certain cultures did. But when those cultures defeat you in warfare, their cultural values become your cultural values. I'll give you a great example. If you classify yourself as an African American, you have no culture. Your culture is not independent of American culture. American culture is interwoven with ideals of Queen Victoria. It's Judeo-Christian, right? It's interwoven with ideals of Charles Darwin. There's no such thing as Black culture. That would just be subgenres of American culture. But you have no culture because you're absorbed in the empire of America. That's why you put a wedding ring on your finger that way. You never ask, where does that come from? Does it come from pagan traditions of the rings of Saturn? Maybe. Why does a man and a woman walk down the aisle like that? Have you ever asked yourself? Aren't many of you Christian? Where does that come from? And the Christianity that you follow is Pauline doctrine, and it's very Greek in nature. Don't many of you that are fraternities pledge Greek? There's no such thing as Black culture. You're American, and American culture often really has its roots in England. Everything you do is American. You're very much like the English, and the way that you see sex is based on Queen Victoria's view of sex and your expectations of how women should go about their sexual behavior. The woman is supposed to be pure. Where does that come from? We're going to get into it in a sec. Man is supposed to do this. Where does that come from? You're not reading anything indigenous. You don't know what the Creek say about that. You don't know what the Iroquois say about that. You don't know what the Lenape say about that. You don't know what the Muskogee say about that. You don't know what the Navajo and the Apache and the Gila River say about that. You have never read their writings regarding women's behavior or men's behavior in those indigenous frameworks. You've never read their writings, nor do you care to. Do you know why? Because you're an American. And you are under Judeo-Christian ideology. And baked into the Judeo-Christian ideology are the perspectives of kings and queens and how they see the world. That's why you get on your knee to propose as a man. Where does that come from? You're an African American. That is a creation that has no ties to no land, that has no ties to nature, no ties to no genealogy, no ties to anything natural. You are absorbed, like many people and many cultures around the world, into the empire of America. And so we just keep it moving. All right? In this period, marriage was possibly one of the most significant points in a woman's life. The majority of women did not have the option to not marry. It was simply a necessity for survival. Y'all heard that? I think that's an important talking point when we talk about our grandmothers. My grandma, why can't we have a love like our grandparents? Many people's grandparents came up with Protestant views. And this is not just a weight on a woman's back. This is also a weight on a man's back too, because that's what people were expected and socialized to do. There was no such thing as a man following his purpose. If a man said at this particular time, hey, I'm following my dreams, he would be considered a bum. He was expected to work and contribute to society, have children, and engine or condition them to be workers. It was about the state, it wasn't about the individual. There was no such thing as following your dreams. There was no such thing as, oh, I have a purpose. There was no such thing as self-worth. Are you kidding me? People put the tribe above themselves. People put the state above themselves. They put the monarchy, the oligarchs, the aristocracy above themselves. They didn't have original thought. Okay? Listen to this, man. In this period, marriage was possibly one of the most significant points in a woman's life. The majority of women did not have the option to not marry. It was simply a necessity for survival. Now, this is not my point, but I'm just going to touch on it a bit. One of the things that I think modern men are having a hard time with is the necessity for a woman to be with you. So now men are bent out of shape. But why would you want a situation where a person has to be with you by necessity? I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want a woman to be with me because she has to. First of all, that bottom is going to feel way different. That top, that gawk is just not going to have the same kind of spit on it if she has to be with me. That's going to be some lazy head. I bet sex at this time was very boring. Missionary, and that's it. Was it no? You know how important. I don't know where girls learn how to ride D these days. It's a lot of clapping. It's a lot of back arching and that thanging, and it's a lot of clapping. That was not going on at this time. It was a bunch of missionary, not even legs on the shoulder missionary, regular standard legs half open. 69? Yeah, right. Wasn't none of them extras. You're not doing that if you got to be with somebody because of survival. You actually resent them. Ain't no throat goats at this time. You ain't about to be no goat at throating when you got to be with somebody for survival. It's a lot of teeth scraping your meat. I don't want that. I guess, hey, it's Wednesday. I guess it's time for spooning. What? This is why people have rebelled. You think it's just, oh yeah, society's coming apart. No, it's not. People never wanted to do this shit from the rip. They had to. And if you're a woman now, I understand them opting out of marriage and opting out of giving birth to children because they never had agency over their life to do what they wanted to do. But here's the thing, neither did guys. This is what the ruling class expected you to do. Meanwhile, they was turning up though. The ruling class was having sacred orgies, but they was making it look dirty for you, kind of like now. I'm just saying though, all this extra shit that you see in porn, throwing it, man, a woman didn't throw it back at this time. Is you crazy? First of all, a woman's hips didn't even move like that. These girls got a lot of flexibility in their hips. You got to be a cold dude to stand still and let her throw it back on you. You know, your thighs be on fire. Like, damn. It feel like a bat is just beating on your legs. Walk up, walk up. Walk up, walk up, walk up. Nigga gotta go get an ice pack for his knee and for his thighs. That was not going on at this time. Y'all nasty, first of all. Y'all nasty. I'm over here trying to build. And y'all nasty. I can't stand y'all. Grow up, y'all. Y'all need to grow up. Y'all's nasty now. Let's get back on it. Ain't that how it sounds? Nigga, I get an ice pack, thighs red as hell. Like, yo, men didn't have to deal with. You think a man from the past could time travel and have sex with a woman in today's times? All that twisting and turning and, man, please. And women get wetter than they did in the past. You got to jump out of that box. Hold on, baby. Wait a minute. You hold on. Yeah, you can't hang. Listen, look. Let me take a sip of this Henny. You think about that for a second. Do you think a woman in this time period got wet like a woman in this time period? No. A man wasn't jumping out the box. Niggas are jumping out of it right now. Like, hey, girls getting attitude. See, this is why I don't be fucking with you like that. Man, listen. He got an attitude because a nigga need a second. Y'all is nasty. Y'all crazy. Shout out to the juice boxes out there. You know what I mean, if don't nobody understand you, I do. All right. In this period, marriage was possibly one of the most significant points in a woman's life. The majority of women did not have the option to marry. It was simply a necessity for survival. Because society prevented women from making their own living, there was an inescapable dependence on a man's income. Sadly, I think a lot of dudes want this world. But here's the thing. That world is very burdensome on you too, sir. The life expectancy of a man at that particular time was very low. People was dropping dead way before 50 years old. Barred by law and custom from entering trades and professions by which they could support themselves, and restricted in the possessions of property, women had only one means of livelihood, that of marriage. That's a cold piece. That's a cold piece, yo. Imagine, like, I know a guy won't allow himself to think like this, right? But put it like this. Everything that a man, if you're from the urban environment, everything you hate about slavery, you don't like a man telling you what to do, right? You don't like the fact that there's a dude standing in front of you and he is blocking your ability to earn a living, right? You don't like that, right? You don't like that. But why is it okay for the woman to be in that position? Why is it okay for a woman not to be able to do anything and she got to come to you for everything? You don't like it when the man does it to you, but why is it okay for the woman? This is what many intellectual Negroes argued it back in the day. How can the 13 colonies talk about freedom from Britain when you have slaves? How does that work? You want freedom. You want the ability to control your own destiny. You want the ability to control your own fate. So you go to war. You go to war with the British, taxation without representation, all that. And it's interesting that the same freedom that a man wants from another man, you don't want that freedom. You don't want the woman to have that freedom, no. You see how funny this stuff is? The 13 colonies tell Britain, hey, we're a free people. The Negro sees that and say, hey, you have to adhere by, hey, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, but yet you deny me my rights. Cool. So man begins to get free from other men, yet you don't want the freedom for the woman. You're like, hold up, hold on. I was talking about me. I wasn't talking about you. That's a cold piece. Because it's either freedom for everybody or freedom for nobody. Submission is not freedom. That's not freedom. You know how we know it's not freedom? England wanted the 13 colonies to what? Submit. The Bible says slaves what? Submit to your masters. Slaves, submit to your masters. So how do we turn around and be like, woman, submit to me? Okay, what if the woman says, I'll submit to you if I see you submit to another man? Then I'll know that this submission thing is natural. I'm just saying. We got to call it all the way down the middle, fam. We got to be right and exact. You know what I'm saying? What I want for myself, I want for my neighbor. I want a livable wage. I want to live in a safe environment. I want to be able to protect my child. I want that for the next man. Right? How would I look if I'm like, yeah, I want that for me, but not for you though. Right? I have sexual autonomy. How could I not want that for a woman? She should be able to pick and choose what she wants to do. And just like I am responsible for whatever consequences happen, so is she. But I can't want something for myself and claim to be upright or claim to be righteous, yet I deny your autonomy. It's too much of that unbalanced shit. Right? If you're going to be right and exact, you got to be able to call it down the middle. Now, what a woman chooses to do, that's her choice. That's her choice. You have to allow choice the same way Frederick Douglass wanted to choose, the same way Thomas Jefferson and George Washington and Alexander Hamilton, they also wanted to make an independent choice away from the grips of the King of England. Yeah, I do that too. I just look like this. Okay. Let's get back into this because this is deep, because this has bled into our modern culture. This is why modern woman. Modern woman. You know, when we're talking about modern woman, we're comparing the woman to this. You women are not like you used to be. And how is that? Not able to make a choice, not able to own nothing, not able to determine if they're coming or going. Like, I'm telling you, yo, I don't want to hit no pussy from no woman that gotta be under this. Ain't no, that don't give me a thrill. Huh. Therefore, no matter what the woman desired, most were predestined to become wives due to their economic reliance on men. Secondly, to be even considered a potential wife, women had to not only be virgins, but expected to remain innocent, free from any thought of love or sexuality until they had received a proposal. They wouldn't even let the woman think about sex. Come on, fam. Like, I wouldn't want this for my mama. Ugh, that's kind of gross. But I wouldn't want that for her. I wouldn't want that for my aunt. Like, you can't even think. Nature has a funny sense of humor, right? So when you're seeing all this WAP and female sexuality all in your face, I wonder why. See, no one ever talks about why. Is it because they weren't even able to think about kissing a man, being on a man? You can't even think about it. Now, see, I'm going to put it in a way that the men can understand. Your slave master comes in there and is like, yo, nigger, don't even think about being free. If I even look at you, fiddler, and you are smiling, thinking about a land of milk and honey, you getting 30 lashes. You bet not even think about freedom. And you know what's funny? Is that's some real shit, because people don't even think about being free or what that even looks like. What you hear me saying, I'm a free person. So that's why I can take, oh, he's a simp, he's an agent, he's this, I can take it. You know why? Because when you free, they're going to call you something. You know why? Because you got to exist in those spheres that I'm telling you. Like, what am I doing as a dude looking up the way women were treated in the Victorian period? No nigga ever. Like, let's be clear here. Hold on. Let's be clear, right? Talk about freedom for a second. What dude look like this, right? Look like this, get his hair cut like this, tattoo on his face like this, is reading, damn, women was going through this during the Victorian period. You know why it's uncommon? Because I'm free. That's what it looks like. It looks like, you know what? I go wherever I want to go. And like one of my master teachers says, I will go anywhere knowledge takes me, even if it bruises my ego. In the name of knowledge, I'm going to go. Right? Don't matter what I look like. If knowledge is taking me there, I'm going. Right? That's freedom. Ken, what are you doing? Why are you? What? Because it's about being right and exact. It's about being fair as possible in the information. But I'm also saying this lifestyle was a burden to dudes. Y'all don't even know what you're asking for. You have this femininity and masculinity fear in your mind based on a queen that ain't even from America, based on people that ain't even from America. Why are you letting people that existed 150, 300 years ago, 1,000 years ago determine what you do now? That's slavery, beloved. I hope the youth get it more right than we are. As long as we get out of their way. That was deep what we just read right there. That was deep. You couldn't even think. And I'm a thinker. Let me tell you something. If I had to live under these conditions, I'd be dead real quick because my mind just wondered, you better not think of threesomes. As soon as they walk away. Oh man, Sarah Banks and Jasmine Casimir. Yeah. I'm gonna be getting my ass whipped every day because I just can't stop. Better think of something else. Damn, okay. Air Max 95s. Come here, nigger. You better not be thinking. As soon as they go again, I got rap verses in my head. Straight up shit is real, and any day could be your last in the jungle. Get murder on the humble, guns a blast, niggas tumble. Thinking about Illmatic. Are you thinking about hip hop, nigga? You better not think about nothing. Come on, man. You couldn't do that to a person like me. I'd be done. My mind? So come on, man. Like, just be fair. Like, this is what women had to live through. That you could not even think about love or anything romantic. That was the expectation. They better not find a love letter or nothing. You couldn't flirt or nothing. This ain't a life for nobody. And this is what you dudes want to come back to, right? Listen, man, this is what you want to have sex with? Come on, man. Moving right along. Let's get through it. The requirement of chastity and absolute purity was not expected of men. See what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? See, come on, man. That's not even like that's not even gangster. The requirement of chastity and absolute purity was not expected of men, as the potential husband had the freedom to participate in premarital and extramarital sexual relations. Such a biased ideal was one of the many double standards in Victorian society, which demanded unquestionable compliance from women and none from men, since the women were thought to be controlled by their sexuality and thus in need of regulation. Now, this was the rules for white women. Think about this for a second. Protestant Christianity dominated America. Okay. So if this was the rules for white women, what do you think the view of Black women's sexuality was in the 1800s? Because if the white woman in Protestant Christianity, early colonial America, if this was expected of her, then you know that Black women have no agency regarding sex. So much so, let me tell you how crazy the psyche is. This is why many Black women were handled the way they were handled by overseers and masters. Do you know why? It was because they already had their views on white women. So when it comes to a woman that is not even supposedly human, they can do whatever and you're not going to feel it. In fact, look at your body. It was made and designed for that. Whereas the white woman was expected to be pure, the Black woman, this is the only thing you're for. That's real deep. So much so that it's just carry on to right now that it's expected for the Black woman to be a breeder. So much so that if Black women say right now, We're not giving birth anymore. If Black women now have control over their wombs, it's an uproar. If Black women say, you know what, I don't want to give birth to no more boys that would carry on this philosophy, oh my God, you niggas gonna go crazy. Come on now. Come on now. Like the same freedom that you want from the system or the so-called white male, you don't want that for the woman though. You only want that for you. That's not cool. That's not a friend. That's not a homie. That's not a bro. That's not real. Y'all ain't see the Goonies? They was down there by themselves. I forgot her name. She gave Andy back the jacket so she could mob with the Goonies. Remember Andy put the bucket down there? Oh no, she was named Andy. I forgot the dude's name, but she stayed. That's homie shit. Don't you want life, liberty, pursuit of happiness for your partner, for your homie? That's unhip hop, first of all. To not with your homegirl to mob like you. We back to back in the Benzes. I got bread, you got bread. I'm fresh, you fresh. A lot of men have never been friends with women like that. That's my nigga. That's my peoples right there. I'm fresh, she fresh. Right? I'm jeweled down, she jeweled down. I'm at the dice table, she at the dice table. That's my peoples right there. Ain't no politics like that. They didn't even talk about masculinity and femininity in hip-hop culture. That's all new stuff. We all did the same thing. We rode bikes together, climbed trees together, fought together, carried knives together. Women sold dope with men together. This is a new conversation that people are having, weaponizing these things, trying to resurrect a time period that is not here no more. You are trying to take this thing back to the Victorian period. You have to be very, very, very mindful and raise your eyebrow when people have nostalgia talk, because oftentimes the nostalgia that they're referencing is not going to benefit you. It is one-sided. That's not a good look. I'm just saying that ain't real. That's fake. You want somebody at a deficit when they deal with you. That's not gang. That's not homie shit. Nah. Let's continue. This is deep. All right. No. Okay. After a woman married, her rights, her property, even her identity ceased to exist. That's called coverture, y'all. By law, she was under the complete and total supervision of, thus, through marriage, husband and wife became one person. Whatever view he presented was the unquestionable truth. Not only did the husband have almost complete control over his wife's body, since beatings and marital rape were legal, their children also belonged to him, as did any property and money that the wife brought into the house. But I've heard you people online talk about the color purple wasn't real. That's not how it really was. Are you serious? Coverture was baked into the American fabric. Protestant views on gender were baked into the American fabric. You just don't like the image that is presenting you in. So you want to deny real history. But I can present a term that you've probably never even used in your day-to-day life, up Victorian standards in terms of gender. This is a real thing. And it started in England, but people from England in that period came over to America. But I've heard people in these spaces, oh man, color purple was used to divide us. That's not a real thing. Why? Because you don't like the image. That's all y'all care about is image. You don't give a damn how things function. You don't give a damn about natural law. You don't care about being a student. All you care about is how things look. Long as it look good, you don't care if it works or not. That ain't right and exact. I'm gonna throw something at you, Miss Phyllis. I'm gonna throw something at you. So based on your comment, right, you don't believe in women behaving roughly. Do you believe in it when it benefits black men? I'll give you an example. Did Harriet Tubman behave roughly? Was that okay? Did Harriet Tubman behave roughly? Did Assata Shakur behave roughly? Right? When the women were front lining to free Huey, was that okay? I'm just saying, like, we gotta, what are we talking about here, right? We gotta call it. So it's okay to behave roughly when it benefits the male. When is it okay for the woman to be rough? When it's like licensed, right? Oh, we gotta free Huey. All right, I need you to behave rough. But when Huey's out, I need you to go back in the house. Is that what we're saying? Is that what we're saying? When Harriet's done freeing people, then now I need you to be soft, sister. But her roughness was used though. Like, come on, like her roughness was used. We have to explore these ideals. Rough, soft, like, huh? Nah, bro, this is a perfect time for men. Men don't gotta do nothing. Men don't gotta do nothing. This is the first time in the history of modern history where a man can focus on himself. You don't gotta do nothing. You can travel this globe and take a journal with you and be all about yourself. And here's the dope thing. Women want to have sex too. So y'all can just meet up for that. She ain't even requiring anything. She just likes you. All right, the most. Hey, pay for the hotel or something. They'll even get down in the car, bro. You ain't even got to get a hotel because they about what you about. What's happening is the men are creating a world with their words. They're creating this environment because they want to feel important. See, if we meet up same, people don't feel as important unless you got the upper hand on somebody. I don't want a woman to need me. I don't want that damn burden. I want to do because I fuck with you. I want to do because you my peoples. I don't want, you ever been needed before? The way my mind is set up, what I like to do, my personality, I don't need no one needing me. I don't want that. Because that takes away from me doing me. And I like to do me. You know what I'm saying? It's a perfect time to be a guy. Leave this Victorian shit exactly where it is. It's better for you. It's better for a dude. Let's get back to it. Marital rape, where were we at? Okay. Indeed, it is understandable to see why many women saw marriage as falling as falling little short of slavery. Victorian society viewed marriage as women's natural and best position in life, and men agreed. Of course they did. Seeing marriage as the expected duty of women. One Victorian male contemporary writing in a letter to a friend described the perfect wife as nothing more than an extensions of a man's household surroundings. Of course, at a certain age, when you have a house and so on, you get a wife as part of its furniture. That's what the man wrote. That the wife was just an extension of the man's household, like furniture. So when I'm asking you about femininity and masculinity, I'm like, are we making this shit up? Like, what are we saying here? What are we saying? Like, what are we saying? This is the thought of this particular time that, you know what, the woman here is just an extension of my furniture. In reality, women had an important position as wives since they took care of the household and any servants, helped with their husband's work, and managed the finances. However, from one male's point of view, women were nothing more than overly emotional and mindless creatures ruled by their sexuality or simply the sex. All I'm doing is reading. These are the ideals concerning women. Those ideals have been passed down to this day. Yo, the library is our friend, yo. You feel me? The library is our friend. Motherhood, unfortunately, in reality, was not any more respected than marriage. Formerly, it was sacred and honored positions, as a mother was viewed as the angel of the house, and motherhood was the crowning achievement of a woman's life. Mind you, this is not women saying this. This is men saying this for women. Such was the overall view, however, as with marriage, there were unjust requirements and unfair expectations. Firstly, motherhood was almost always separated from anything sexual. Sex for any other reason than creating children was viewed as dirty and scandalous, quite separate from the revered sexless image of motherhood. Purity was an exception and a necessity in order for motherhood to be truly appreciated. Victorians considered purity a crucial component in ideal maternity. Although mothers were necessarily women of some sexual experience, they were nonetheless often canonized as essentially virginal. This meant that mothers also had to be religious, since religion supported the view of women as free of sexual passion and gratification. Such beliefs were required in order to properly bring up children, because mother who lacked religious faith could not instill sexual propriety in her daughter, and thus was unfit to be a mother at all. Furthermore, women's compliance with the accepted social maternity values was more important than their role as mothers. For example, in 1878, Annie Besant was denied the custody of her daughter because she had written in a magazine promoting birth control, sex for pleasure, and was an adamant atheist. As Holmes and Nelson state, mothers were valued socially only if they were good mothers, and good according to rigid moral standards of propriety, not only in behavior, but also in opinion. When Besant was judged not fit and proper person to have custody over her child, not because of her mothering, but because of her opinions, the courts and the public ruled unequivocally that social conformity was more important than maternal love. Let me tell you what that means is there was a case where the woman had ideals about sex, right? And she was judged based on those ideals to be unfit as a mother. And that's what we do right now. Things overlap. We think that a person's behavior overlaps to them being a parent, and it doesn't. This is where these ideals come from, though. This is Victorian thinking. So what that means is, if I go to a strip club and I see a woman on a pole, right? What I see her doing on this pole, you know, it has nothing to do with how she's a mother, right? You judge her mothering based on mothering, not based on I see you spit, therefore you are unfit to be a mother. But these are the same ideals that exist to this day, and we carry it around. There was no such thing as a woman's place. That was created by elite people. This is your place. This is your place. Now y'all live like this. Thus, mothers were viewed by men as angelic only if they seemed to eschew sex, were meek, submissive, and conforming. Mothers, men kept in mind, were also women controlled by their emotion and were socially accepted as long as they stayed in their sphere of submissiveness and passivity. What sphere are they talking about? This sphere. This is what I mean when I talk about fantasy and how words create worlds. We created all of this stuff and we act like it comes from the supernatural realm, and it doesn't. We create this. But this is not just a burden on women. This is a burden on men too, because the man should be free to do whatever he wants. However, he's not free from his responsibilities and choices. He's not free from that. However, though, if he don't want to get married, he shouldn't have to. Don't have no children. If he don't want to take care of a woman, he don't have to. So both people are living the burden of human social experiments on how people should live. No one was ever asked if they wanted to live like this. They was born in a world and the rules apply. No one was ever asked. Where are we at? Okay. Motherhood, socially restricted and defined by women's sexual abilities, was like marriage, an institution to limit women's roles in society. In order to be sexually free as men in the Victorian era, women had to avoid motherhood and stand against society's convention and the rules set up by men. Hence, you see that happening now. Therefore, it seemed that despite the superficially elevated position of wives and mothers, women were alone in a world ruled by men. This could not have been more clearly evident than when women came into contact with law. Justice was administered according to the male view of her rights. That's tough. That's tough. Listen and listen clear. When it came to law regarding women, justice was administered according to a male view of her rights and how she ought to behave. It seemed appropriate that justice was portrayed as a blindfolded woman, since her scales were so tilted in favor of men. Laws designed to benefit men over women had to be overlooked. Besides the legality of marital rape and wife battery, the husband also had complete say in sexual intercourse. Refusal of sex was grounds for annulment of marriage. The issue of adultery was also skewed to favor men. While a wife's adultery was sufficient cause to end a marriage, a woman could divorce her husband only if his adultery had been compounded by another matrimonial offense, such as cruelty or desertion. Meaning, as long as he takes care of the bills, he can do what he wants to do. All right. The reason was that wives and mothers served as moral guides to children. So adultery committed by a woman was considered perverted and unnatural. Also called the paternity of the children. Also, it called the paternity of the children into question. Don't they say that now? The reason why polygamy is better for a man is because a woman can only get pregnant by one dude at a time, and we need to know whose child it is. But a man can impregnate as many women as he wants. What I'm showing you is that this is a couple hundred years old, yet you still hear the sentiment right now. This is how people talk right now. These are not original ideals that people are talking about. This is not aha shit. This is Protestant Victorian views baked into the way the world is right now. Misheard as moral guides. It also called paternity. And thus, men believed that unless there was an explicit rule against it, men were free to treat women any way they wanted without any shame. Men justified their actions with their supremacy and expected women to tolerate the abuse without demur. The extreme polarization of roles based on First off, do y'all want me to continue reading, or you want me to go on to my next thing? If you want me to continue reading this, press 1. I want to know what y'all think. If you want me to continue reading this, press 1. If you want me to move on to the next thing, press 2. It's up to y'all. If you want me to continue reading this, press 1. If you would like me to move on to the next thing, press 2. Because it's a couple more paragraphs of this. Very, very interesting. Couple ones. All right. I don't see no 2. Couple ones. All right. Okay. I'll read a little bit more. All right. This is crazy. The issue of adultery was also skewed in favor for men. Did I read that? Men justify their actions. Oh, okay. All right. The extreme polarization of poles based on gender resulted in a world ruled solely by men's discretion, which almost never took into consideration a woman's viewpoint. Emmanuel Lawrence of the Espoo organization that fought for women's emancipation challenged the patriarchal power of society. The concentration of power in the hands of men the containing of women into the private sphere had resulted in a society in which there is nothing that expresses the woman's point of view. There is nothing that tallies with the woman's soul. Everything is arranged upon a plan from a different point than their own. Kent goes on to argue that not only had men failed to protect the interest of women, they were almost inescapable of it. Their lives, their laws, and the administration of justice reflected men's deep-seated desire to debase women sexually. If women were looked upon as ruled by their sexual reproductive systems in the institutions of marriage and motherhood, they could not expect any more protection or understanding from the legal system. You hear that right now. That in order for a man to protect you, you have to have certain sexual behavior. You have to, quote, respect yourself according to what the male considers respectable. That's deep. Because if the male, let's go for people from the urban market. If you are a black male, how do you feel about what the white male says is respectable? You're not going to get protection under the law unless you wear your hair this way, unless you talk this way, unless you respect yourself according to what I think you should do. Then I'll protect you. You'll have equal protection under the law like every other American citizen. That's deep. See, when I frame it that way, then it hits different, because this is ill. I'm not going to protect you unless you behave sexually in a way that I find appropriate. Prostitution was legal during the Victorian era, seemed to embody the second of the two categories of the woman present in Victorian society, right? The first was the pure wife and the mother, the angel of the house. The other was the depraved and sexually crazed prostitute. However, because wives and mothers were not truly respected, my belief is that prostitution reflected what men really considered all women to be: whores for the gratification of their sexual desires. And indeed, in Victorian England, a large number of women were prostitutes. In a society that forced women into positions of economic dependence on men, only an incident of birth prevented women of the middle class from resorting to prostitution to support themselves and their children. Men said they were revolted by prostitutes, that they were fallen women who deserved the shame and disrespect, yet they made no effort to make prostitution illegal, since they believed prostitutes provided a basic service of satisfying men's uncontrollable needs. Ironically, in a society that was not open to women working outside the home, prostitution seemed to be the only profession protected by law. Many men regarded prostitutes as the necessary evil to protect the pure, who otherwise might unwittingly provoke the male to rape them. This would really explain why many husbands have different sexual behavior with a wife and with a sex worker, or what we call a jump off. A wife is not getting the best pipe. Other women are. You know why? Because based on Victorian perspective, the husband looks at the wife too pure because she had his child. Therefore, he does not see her as a sexual person. That's why prostitution is so big. Explain how they called the woman fallen, yet they understood the need for her. She served a necessary evil because the man can't control himself. He needs that. Is that what is being said to this day? Now, do you see the weaponization of masculinity and femininity? This stuff is weaponized. This is baked into the fabric of Western society. Even though this is a Victorian thinking, this is how people talk now. Prostitution is a $14 billion business every year in America. Why? Because the man could go be what he really wants to be. He can't be like that with his wife. You know why? Because she had children. There's something about a dude when he looks at a woman that has children in her hand, and all of a sudden she's non-sexual. Because in the mind of the modern man, because of the Victorian period, that's the purpose of a woman in the first place. You see why over at Coin Gang we come with different type of receipts? See people come with talking points. These aren't talking points. You're right. They thought sex workers help society. So anytime you hear people trying to condemn WAP or condemn hoes, that's cap. That is cap. The sex worker is the necessary evil for the married man, because the married man does not want to sleep with his wife. They just was talking about it right here. You're only seen to give birth. Many men have to go to a strip club to get turned on to go home. That's not Ken's points. We're reading it. This is Victorian perspective, which has bled into an American perspective. Although I'm not sure Victorian men really considered themselves to be bestial or animalistic, theorists constructed a single sexuality for men that acknowledged the urgency of the male drives and the necessity of them. The whole field of prostitution seemed to be built upon the belief that men had to express their sexual energy, women being the means of men's expression. Oh man, y'all. All right. I'm about to read something. You're gonna have to trigger through it. Trigger through this right here. The Contagious Disease Act of the 1860s tried to limit the spread of venereal diseases and prostitution by requiring an examination of the genitals of women who were suspected of being prostitutes. Treatment was compulsory only for women. A military doctor said periodic examination of the soldiers would tend to destroy the men's self-respect. So this practice was only for women. Women had to get checked up on their vaginas, not men, because that would destroy their self-respect. This is a cold piece. Ken, where did you find this? It's Coin Gang, man. It does this shit. Now you understand the views of the genders now and where it derives from, to the point where the woman needs her genitals checked up, but we're not going to check the soldiers because that will mess up their self-esteem. They're not thinking about the self-esteem when the woman is getting her bottom check. It doesn't matter. Now extend that same concept and thinking to black women. They can easily be experimented on, right? Because guess what? Not only is she property, she's not even considered a human. At least the white Victorian woman was considered human. At least she had that. Indigenous people weren't even considered human. So you can imagine, man, men in society's constant definition of women's roles according to their separate spheres. Remember the separate spheres? And the reproductive system can only be seen through what we today would consider weird sexual values of Victorians. To begin with, sex as a subject was not at all discussed. Listen to this. Listen to this. Girls could grow up into women and still not know where children came from. Do you know this is what they talked about in early America? You didn't even know where babies came from. I'm 38. Anybody my age bracket know they had a friend that didn't know about where babies came from. They called it the birds and the bees. They said that a stork dropped the baby off. That's how taboo they made sex. That a stork, a bird, dropped off a human baby. That's what they used to tell children. Women in the Victorian period. Think about this for a second. Try to wrap your mind around this. Women in the Victorian period, right? Or girls that grew up into women, they didn't even know that babies came out of them. Think about that for a second. They didn't even know that babies came out of them. Y'all don't remember that? That we was taught that a stork was flying with our when we wanted a baby, when parents wanted a baby, a stork would bring it to you. You see the realms of fantasy? You see the fantasy of this crap? You see this? That you can't even talk about human biology. This is dangerous. Because remember, words create worlds. So if you step outside of this world, you are considered a threat to the society. Imagine the woman that told girls the truth at this time. Hey, babies come out of you. Oh my gosh, you probably got hung. This is what many men are trying to go back to. This is how women are shamed sexually. Like, how are you a girl, right? Yo, think about this. A virgin gets pregnant, right? She gets married, right? Her body begins to go through changes and she doesn't even know why. Like, this is think about this for a second. And if this Victorian culture, right, if they beat you in war, their cultural values become your cultural values. So now you can be First Nation people like the Seminoles, the Creek. Now they have to go by this. Now Africans have to go by this. Now Australians have to go by this. People who understand the anatomy in a natural way now have to go by this. Now it's like, yo, we don't tell the children where the babies come from. We have to create some type of mythology like, oh yeah, the babies are dropped off out of heaven. Like, what? That's deep. Girls could grow up into women and still not know there were children where children came from. Women's bodies hidden in long, voluminous clothes were almost as much of a mystery to them as to men. Nice ladies no more thought of showing their legs and or arms. Sexuality and anything in relationship or anything in relation to the contradicted the accepted notions of purity and was strictly looked down upon. Masturbation was also demonized, that it was considered a mental disorder. I've choked my chicken so many times, I must be crazy if that's the case. Didn't they just put out the rose? That little rose thing that women listen. Yo, based on this, do you know you have mental illness? And if we gonna go off this, some of y'all women crazy as hell with the size of dildos y'all be using. If we're gonna go by this, if masturbation was considered a mental disorder, then what would you be considered based on your rose and your dildos? Moving right along. I told y'all nasty. She said, I'm crazy as hell then. Yo, if you, man, think about that for a sec. If you use that rose anytime soon, y'all got mental illness. Kanique, you using that rose? All right. I just want you to know, in the Victorian period, you would be considered a woman with mental illness. That's crazy. This is crazy. But this is the way that people still see the world too. Everything is dirty. Right? This is interesting, right? Anything to do with masturbation. Doctors maintain, listen to this. Doctors maintained that masturbation caused certain forms of insanity, epilepsy, and hysteria in females. Victorians, it seems, simply could not understand why anyone would voluntarily choose to participate in such revolting and degrading activities. So y'all all crazy. See, y'all see? I got some crazy women in my chat. Lena, you crazy. Kanique, you crazy. Listen to what the doctor said. I'm gonna tell you what the doctor said about y'all. This is what they thought of you during the Victorian period, right? Doctors maintain that masturbation caused forms of insanity, epilepsy, and hysteria in females. Simply put, Victorians could not understand why Kanique would voluntarily choose to participate in such revolting behavior. Simply put, Victorians couldn't understand why a shy gal would participate in such degrading activities. Simply put, Victorians couldn't understand why Lena will participate in such degrading activities. Black Road, you going in the asylum. They putting you under the jail, all of y'all. But man, right? You see how words create worlds? This is on the books. To understand why people behave the way they do now, we have to just go back just a little bit. They couldn't fathom that. Right? Why you would pleasure yourself. This is deep because people still think like this. Y'all told me to keep reading now. Oh, I'm almost done. Okay. Yeah. One solution. Now trigger through it. Trigger through this. Trigger through it. All right. Trigger through this. Right. See what I'm saying? Y'all just too nasty for your own good. Jamie gonna say, take me to a private cell where I can do it more. Y'all just now you gonna go to jail to do it, Jamie. I mean, look, trigger through this. One solution was the mutilation of female genitals. Clitoridectomy. Clitoridectomy was performed to cure dysphoria, amenorrhea, sterility, epilepsy, masturbation, hysterical mania, and various manifestations of insanity. The source of these diseases was thought to be sexual arousal. The termination of sexual arousal through clitoridectomy cured the disease. Men so deeply believe that the ideal of women being men so deeply believe the ideal of women as being women who were controlled by their sexuality, that some even thought the reason were women were so unhappy with their position as females was because they lacked males' sexual origin. The psychologist Sigmund Freud explained this argument. The personality developed of the female centered upon her discovery in early childhood that she lacked a penis. Penis envy created in the female child a lifelong dissatisfaction with her identity as a woman. The extent to which men stress view of women as the sex was almost limitless. The best view, perhaps stated clearly to define women's social niche, was written by eminent British psychiatrist Henry Maudsley. Reproductive process demanded all the energy a woman could muster. So to spend it in another direction would exorbitantly undermine the very function that gave women her only reason deter or reason for being. If women foolishly attempted to undertake study, he concluded, they risk ruining forever their childbearing capacities. In the end, there was no way to escape from men's never ending subordination of women due to female sexuality. That's deep. When I was reading this early, I was like, damn, clitoridectomy. Clitoridectomy. For people that don't understand what I just read, right? They cut the woman's clitoris off, right? Because they thought that sexual pleasure caused the woman to go insane. So they mutilated the woman's body. Come on now. Right? The only purpose of the womb was to give birth. That's it. However, the male can experience anything they want. Do you understand the weaponization of masculinity and femininity? This is dangerous stuff. This is dangerous stuff if you don't lift the hood on it and do a deep dive. Because these ideals have bled into how people think right now. This is deep. Y'all with me? Then I clicked it off my screen. I would if y'all want me to put that link in the chat so you can read that for yourself, let me know. I gotta go find it real quick. But if you want that article right now about the description of women behavior in the Victorian period, I can find it for you if that's what you want. That was deep. They'll even cut your private just so you don't experience no pleasure. If you want that, let me see. Lena says she wants. You do? All right. Don't go nowhere. 1 second. Let me see. Where would I? 1 second. 1 second. I clicked it off the screen right before I could. Let me see. Let me see. Error.org. No. One second. Okay. Victoria Media. Damn. Disease, pornography, media. No. Where did I put that? Express UK. No. 1 second. Because I had to search for this. Guardian. And y'all will have to give me a sec, y'all, because I found that wasn't on the front page of anything. Let me see what doing it was. Damn, yeah. That wasn't on the front page of anything. And I wonder why, because when I was reading it, I'm like, damn, this is real surgical. And then let me see. Oh, okay. I'll find it here. 1 second. Historical. Recently closed. 1 second. Oh, found it. See? Seek and ye shall find. Here you go. Put this in your save. Someone click that link real quick to tell me if it works, just so I know. That's the link to what I was just reading about the Victorian period, and you can take everything that we read and you can bring it fast forward to today, and people still believe those things. Words create worlds, right? It works? Okay, cool. So because of things like that, it creates production. And production is imagery, right? And we're addicted to imagery. Femininity and masculinity are based on those kind of things. So I'm not saying, oh, the man is bad. No, the man must live under these kind of rules and dynamics too, right? We are not making our own rules. We are not having original thoughts. This stuff is created for us. I'll give you an example. Watch this, right? Ken comes with receipts. What you're about to look at is the production of the American family, how you can create this shit. And once you put it on film, this is what people follow, right? So this right here is from 1949, all right? And what this is telling people how to behave and how to have a family in America. So think about all the immigrants. This stuff was played to them in that time period. What it's really telling you is it's your introduction to the whiteness. This is how you behave. Okay? This is what I mean by everything is a production. So we're going to watch like 5 minutes of this, but pay attention. Now remember, this is from 1949. All right? And this video was showed to immigrants. It was showed in schools of how to behave like the American family. All right?
Wish my family were like that.
Fair use.
We never do anything. Never have the time.
Neither do we. You know, so many people are asking how the Millers manage to have so much fun as a family.
What's the answer? Is it money?
Or is it magic? Neither. It's something they worked out together when they woke up to the fact that they wanted their family life to be fun.
Who doesn't? But how did they work it out?
To understand, let's go back several months. Eavesdrop on the Millers one Friday evening before they got wise to themselves.
Mother, you promised to have dinner ready at 6 o'clock.
I'm sorry, Catherine. I just didn't finish my other working time.
Oh, well. Dad's not home yet anyway. Nobody seems to care that I'll have a date at 7 o'clock.
You can still make it, dear. I'll do the dishes alone.
But you and Dad are going to the movies.
I'm too tired. I did all the washing today, and I cleaned your room, too. It really needs...
I meant to go home and clean it, Mother. But after school there with me or...
I can't wear these slacks tonight. You said you'd press them.
I know, Harold, but I just didn't...
Why don't you press them yourself?
Say, where's my jacket?
In my closet. I broke it. I meant to tell you.
You broke it? And me with an important match tomorrow. Why didn't you get it fixed?
Where would I get the money?
Money? Mother, I need a couple of dollars to take Mary out tonight.
I haven't any money, Harold. But you might have him come home.
Fine thing. Dinner late, tennis racket broken, no money for date, and no pants to wear. If this thing were a business, we'd go bankrupt, but fast.
Look at the woman. Pay attention.
That night, Mrs. Miller was thinking about what Harold said.
If this family were a business, in a way, we are a business. We have money to handle, just as a business has. Yet we never make it last from one payday to the next. But that's not all we can't seem to manage. Isn't there a better way to manage ourselves? Wouldn't we all be happier if we worked out a little system for living together in harmony?
Now remember what we read in the Victorian, right? Now this is from 1949. The woman is never expected to think about herself, ever. This is her entire role to think about the children, think about the man, never herself. And you see they got her in the kitchen doing this, right? This is social engineering, all right? But now remember what we read in the Victorian thing, right? But if you're an immigrant coming from Poland, India, anywhere, you're watching this, and this is how to become an American, how it's done. Now, this is from 1949.
It's worth a try. I called this first meeting of the Miller family to propose that we try to establish a definite program for managing our home so that we'll all get more out of it. More fun, more leisure, and more harmony.
I'm certainly in favor of those things. Harmony, leisure, fun.
Who isn't?
How can we manage them?
We'll have to work out the full answer together. But for a start, I've made a list of points that will guide us. 1, schedule. 2, responsibilities. 3, privileges. And 4, finances.
Sounds impressive.
What do they mean?
How do they work?
Well, remember last Friday evening? It was nothing special. We've had plenty of differences just like it. I caused a good part of the trouble by not having dinner on time. We need to make a definite schedule and stick to it so we can all make plans accordingly.
I can be more careful about coming home in time for dinner or phoning when I'm going to be late.
Yes, but then I didn't have dinner ready, so
Because you took time to clean my room. That's something I should have done.
Well, that's my second
Point, privileges.
Well, responsibilities and privileges always go together. If we accept responsibilities, then we acquire certain privileges.
Such as?
Well, such as, I can think of one. Privilege of having your private rights respected. Such as having someone ask your permission when she wants to borrow your tennis racket.
That's the general idea. Now, my 4th point is finances.
Yes, where are we going to get more money?
We don't.
You mean a budget?
Well, if we were a business, wouldn't we have a plan for spending our money?
That does it.
Well, I'd like to suggest that we adjourn for now and all give this some serious thought, and then get together for another meeting next Monday after dinner to discuss a plan for spending and all these other matters.
Good idea. I'd like to have these family meetings every week.
After we work this out, later on we can check up on how we're doing.
Well, it looks as though I really started something.
Say, Mom, it's swell.
That's how the daughters came to manage their home, so it would be more fun.
Does it really work?
These guides to home management. Can my family use them?
Well,
So look, that's from 1949, right? That's how it's done, a production. That's how it's supposed to look, everything, right? So much so that people say, I want to be married right now with a picket fence and a dog, because of images. That's from 1949. It had the woman do in the same role as the Victorian period, right? It's a boy and a girl, right? She's dressed with makeup on and heels. Like, who cooks in heels? But that's the production, right? Production has people playing roles. Roles are very important because it carries its own software. So when we discuss masculinity and femininity, we discuss them in roles, but the roles aren't real. It's acting. I'll give you an example. Before I do that, I just want to show you real quick immigration at that particular time. So this was in the 40s. All right. So you got people that came through the country before that and then after that. But look at in the 50s, almost 2.5 million people came to America. They have to learn how to behave, right? So what they're going to look at, right? What they're going to look at is films like that, because films like that taught you to behave this way. It taught you to become American. It taught you to become the roles. Look at immigration, 50s, 60s, 70s. It just goes up from there. And all these people have to be socially engineered into these specific roles, right? Remember the sphere. It has to be based on this. Now, the thing about roles that are so powerful, and when they're on screen, it becomes reality. This role right here of Lorenz Tate completely changed the way young males behaved in American ghettos. It was that influential. Art definitely becomes life. That's how powerful the realm of fantasy is. We create these things, and then these things wind up dominating us. This movie, Menace to Society, did more harm than it did good. You would have to know that period, right? We all wanted our hair like this, like Kane, not just like this. Snoop Dogg came out around the same time too. He was riding on the handlebars. He had these braids. I tried to do it in my hair. My mom was like, get that crap out of your hair. So come on, Mom. You don't understand me. Right? I was like 10. Right? See the power of roles? When we say feminine, masculine, we're assigning a role. Right? This movie right here also had a major effect on people that lived in urban America. All the rappers started naming themselves after Italian movie characters. Oh, yeah. The Frankie Lucci, Bugsy Siegel. Yeah. Call me Panero. Yeah. Call me Castellano. Right? Call me Genovese. That's how powerful movie is. Remember what we went to. Remember in the beginning, y'all. Remember in the beginning, the brain cannot tell the difference between fantasy and reality. So when these images came out, we associated that this was real, so much so it became goals. This had a major effect on young boys in the ghetto. But I want to tell you how fantasy, these ideals of femininity, masculinity. You ready? Now I want y'all to look at the picture I'm about to show you and tell me where does femininity come from and masculinity come from. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Where's femininity and masculinity here? When we say a woman is too masculine, where does it exist in her anatomy? When a man is, oh, he's a masculine man. Really? Okay, if I cut him open, where would I locate that? I need some help. Is femininity in the intestines? Is masculinity in the arteries? Is femininity in the pancreas? Is masculinity in the bone marrow? Is femininity and masculinity in the kidneys? Where is this stuff that people are talking about? Because I should be able to locate it when we do it in real time. You know, it's a war on masculinity. That's what they say. Where here would the war start? Oh, he's a masculine man. Oh, you're talking about image. Oh, you're talking about roles. You're talking about acting. It's an act. So much so, that's why a woman can be masculine at any time and a man can be masculine. Anybody can act it. But if people can act it, what is it? For women in the hood to be so masculine, are they like that because the guys are masculine? Or are they like that because the guys are feminine? Either way, on the body, someone tell me, where is masculinity and femininity located inside of the human body? Which hormone produces it? Testosterone produces masculinity. Estrogen produces femininity. Can you point to it on here? These are the moments that I like because it be mute. Because sometimes when I come up with things that I want to talk about, sometimes I fast to do it. Do you know why? So I can have a clear mind. I know exactly what I'm going to present, and it ain't going to be no pushback. Brother Rob says let me see. Brother Rob says testosterone and estrogen come from the genitals. Okay. Where does masculinity and femininity come from in the body, Brother Rob? Where in the body would we look? Because this is important, right? Because children are hearing these things and they have inquisitive minds, right? So where would we tell our daughters their femininity is located? Because we do tell them and put barrettes on their head, and we dress them up in pink clothes, and they say, oh, she's so girly. But if I got a fly ass Easter pink suit, am I feminine? All right. Well, I'm about to post something else, everybody. And I want y'all to tell me, where is femininity and masculinity on here? Are y'all ready? 1, 2, 3. Where's femininity and masculinity? Where does one start and the other end? Sex hormones produce male and female characteristics, not produced in the genitals. It's produced in brain and secreted by the pituitary gland. And the chromosome XX and XY for progeneration. After that, it's all subjective. Okay. I got a very smart chat. I'll be trying to tell y'all that. Can anyone on here tell me what's the masculine color on here? What is the man's color? And what is the woman's color? Because this is what we say. This is the nonsense that we project out, and we don't. Where's masculinity and femininity here? Anybody? Is the red masculine or feminine? Or is the pinkish purple area masculine, feminine? So blue would be what? Masculine? Would that be man? Or would that just be masculine? See, I asked you two different things. The reason why I asked you like that is because masculine has nothing to do with being a man. And feminine has nothing to do with being a woman. Nothing at all. So what we have done is we have taken esoteric things and put it in gender or social gender, because even social gender is not real gender. And we'll get into that in a sec, right? People see a woman, she's in her masculine energy. Why wouldn't she be though? It's inside of her, because real masculinity and real femininity is in all things. Right? Show y'all something real quick. Because masculinity and femininity is in this too. But you don't think so, though, right? We don't say things like this. We only apply it to humans. Masculinity and femininity is in this. Masculinity and femininity is in all things. Not just a guy or a girl. In all things. They represent poles. We have assigned meaning to masculinity and femininity to mean the wrong things. Masculinity and femininity is in this too. But you won't never look at the play and be like, oh, that's masculine, that's feminine. But I'll do a behavior in society and you'll be like, oh, that's masculine, that's feminine. You're acting real feminine right now. Is this acting feminine? It's dying right here. Is this feminine? And the top part is masculine? I mean, come on now. Put this back later. I got plants too. I do that too. Right? We assign meaning to things. And the meanings that we assign ends up owning us. It ends up dominating us. Right? This is the best shit I heard all day. This is the best. Right. Right? Invest in Ken's products. Yes. Appreciate you, beloved. If you look here, success, happiness, opportunity, fortune, every last one of us has a different assigned meaning to the words here. Success looks different for people. Happiness looks different for people. Opportunity looks different. Fortune looks different. So if these things right here are different for everybody, then what the hell is masculinity and femininity? We have assigned meanings to these words, where success for me is something different, and success for you is something different. Success for me could be traveling the world. Success for you is your kid graduating high school. Happiness for you can be gotta watch my mind sometimes. Said something. No, hell, happiness for you can be getting a train ran on you. What? I can't tell you not. Happiness to me could mean at the casino shooting dice. How I look at opportunity, you may not. I may see something you don't see. I have assigned a meaning to opportunity. I have assigned a meaning to fortune. So have you. This is what the human mind does. And the human mind has now weaponized masculinity and femininity and assigned it to social shit. Oh, you're not going to find a husband unless you act feminine. What does that mean? We even assign different meaning for love. We all say, I love you. Anybody in the chat, tell me in your honest opinion, does love have anything to do with sex? Yes or no? I need as much people to participate in that as possible. Does love or does sex have anything to do with love? Anything? What do you think? The question on the table is, does sex have anything to do with love? No. Not at all. No. No. Of course, a man says sometimes. All right. Is he wrong? Say no. So love doesn't have anything to do with sex. Why? Because we assigned a meaning to it that it doesn't? It's a lot of no's. Tell the women that. Dollar, do you think love and does the sex, or does the sex have anything to do with love? You can have sex with someone you don't love. Okay. So what everyone is doing is you're showing what you assigned to a word. But here's the thing. Love, feeling of love, romantic, sexual attraction. Romantic, sexual. I asked, did love have anything to do with sex? Or did sex have anything to do with love? Come to find out, the etymology of the word love consists of romantic, sexual attraction. Interesting, right? See, that's the power of when we assign meanings to things, because we assign meanings to things that are not actually the definition. This is why when people talk about masculinity and femininity, they assign a meaning for it, and it's not even that. You learn something new every day, huh, y'all? Some people didn't know that if I have a sexual attraction to you, do you know I actually love you in that moment? See the power of words, right? And what you're looking at is Proto-Germanic, Old English, German, Old Phoenician, Saxon, Lufu, right? Lubu, Luibi, Life. Life and love. That's how love used to sound. Life. Lib in Germany. Lufs in Gothic. Right? Did you know that it had anything to do with sex? That's. Did you know? This is why my name is Body Bag Ken. That's one of the reasons for shit like that. Some sex and love are different. Are they? Really? When love is a romantic sexual attraction. I'll show you another one. God. Oh, God is all loving. Right? God is this. God is that. What's the etymology mean? Oh, English, God, supreme deity. Christian God, an image of God, God-like person. Proto-Germanic, Guten, Gothic. Old Saxon, Phoenician. Okay, so God is a word, right? But what is it? What did it mean when they were using it though? To invoke, to call. The notion could be divine entity summoned to a sacrifice. God was something to be summoned, invoked. That doesn't really do it justice. Let's find out something else. Oh, but some trace it to gutu, poured, from root guh, to pour a libation. Now, wait a minute. Many of you thought that the word God, it was omnipresent, all loving, good. Did you know that it means to pour a libation in the Germanic use? Now, scroll down a little bit. Let me show you something that's real interesting. Given Greek facts, the Germanic form may have referred in the first instance to the spirit imminent in a burial mound. Either case, not related to good. Hold on for a second. When I was in church, the church folks said God is good. Someone said all the time. Yet the actual meaning of the word God, the etymology of the word God, did not mean good. It only means good because we say it means good. Go down a little bit. Originally a neuter noun in Germanic, the gender shifted to masculine after coming into Christianity. So what was it before? Wait a minute, man. This stuff is confusing. Okay, God is good all the time. But then when I go and look at the etymology of word God, it doesn't mean good. It means to pour a libation. It means a burial mound. But then you tell me when it becomes in Christianity, it becomes masculine. So does that mean it was feminine before? You see how it can change? Because we assigned a meaning to the word. We created the word, control the concept, and then assign different meanings to it. Man, hold on. Y'all reading it with me. Originally a neuter noun. The gender shifted to masculine after coming into Christianity. And they say God is good all the time, but it says in either case, not related to good. God loves me. Where does it say that in the etymology? You're being anthropomorphic. You're putting human emotions on a deity. But that's telling you the power of when you assign things. Right? Now, if you can do that to that, What can you do to masculinity and femininity? And now we'll go into our book of the day. Because I want to read from here, the Kybalion, right? I want to read this classic book on Hermetics to see if the way we use, what? That's what you got out of that? Just say you don't read. I like mental gymnastics, right? So KJ, just say you don't read. Just say you like quick. Over here is abstract ministry, right? I provide for my friends. I don't give a damn who you are. So if you rock with me, you're good. Out of all that, that's what you got. Right? Right? After all that, that's what you got. Gender. Now we're going to go to the Hermetic, what the Hermetic says about this. Right? Okay. Gender is in everything. Just showed you the plant, right? Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principle. Gender manifests in all planes. The seventh, now get you a copy of this too, right? Get you a copy of the Kybalion. The seventh great Hermetic principle, the principle of gender, embodies the truth that there is gender manifested in everything, that the masculine and feminine principles are ever present and ever active in all phases of phenomenon on each and every plane of life. At this point, we think it's well to call your attention to the fact that gender in its Hermetic sense and sex in the ordinary accepted use of the term are not the same. So automatically a separation between gender and sex. The word gender is derived from the Latin root meaning to beget, to procreate, to generate, to create, to produce. A moment's consideration will show you that the word has a much broader and more general meaning than the term sex. The latter referring to the physical distinction between male and female living things. Sex is merely a manifestation of gender in a certain plane of the great physical plane, the plane of organic life. We wish to impress the distinction upon your minds for the reason that certain writers who have acquired a smattering of the Hermetic philosophy have sought to identify the seventh Hermetic principle with wild and fanciful, and even often reprehensible theories and teachings regarding sex. Again, not the same. The office of gender is solely that the creating, producing, generating, and in its manifestation are visible on every plane of phenomenon. It is somewhat difficult to produce proofs of this along scientific lines for the reason that science has not yet recognized this principle as of universal application. But still, some proofs are forthcoming from scientific sources. In the first place, we find a distinct manifestation that the principle of gender among the corpuscles, ions and electrons, which constitute the basis of matter, as science now knows the latter, and which by forming certain combinations form the atom, which until lately was regarded as final and indivisible. Stop right there. Ions, matter, electrons. None of that is mentioned when femininity and masculinity is talked about. So when those things are mentioned, people are attempting to weaponize it then, because that's what it has to do with. I told you in the beginning that these things were metaphysical, right? These things had a higher meaning, but we see how you can assign a meaning to something. So something that is metaphysical, people have assigned a meaning to it and says, skirt, beard, masculine, feminine, has nothing to do with dating, has nothing to do with people getting married. People are butchering esoteric things. The latest word of science is that the atom is composed of a multitude of corpuscles, electrons, or ions, revolving around each other and vibrating at a high degree and intensity. But the occupying statement is made that the formation of the atom is really due to the clustering of negative corpuscles around a positive one, the positive corpuscle seeming to exert a certain influence upon the negative corpuscle, causing a latter to assume certain combinations and thus create or generate an atom. See, now we go into a certain space, right? That KJ, this is mental gymnastics. This is why certain looking people run the world, because they like mental gymnastics. Elon Musk likes mental gymnastics, right? He's trying to get to Mars, so he has to tap into physics, right? A certain market doesn't like mental gymnastics. It's too much, right? So femininity, masculinity, I'm having a conversation about it. Oh, just say you ain't gonna provide for a woman. What? First of all, I will never give a woman shit that I couldn't read a book like this for. So, how about that? Right? I would never put money to nothing. You ain't on this type of time, I don't even fuck with you. Leave me alone, because this is where I'm at. I already did the streets and the club and the black. I'm on this. I'm on the occult. I'm on the Hermetic. So if you're on that with me, you can get anything I have, because you're in student mode, right? And if anything ever happens to me, I know you'll continue on with your own personal development. And if we have a child, this is what you're going to teach the child, to be able to look at nature and differentiate things through an occult and esoteric lens. So you're not going to say, oh yeah, she looks feminine, he looks masculine. You'll be able to apply that to the movement of the ocean. Masculinity, femininity, right? You'll be able to apply that to nature, not dating. Yeah, so no, I'm not providing for women that don't read what I read. No. No need. I catch up with my own kind. This is in line with the most ancient Hermetic teachings, which have always identified the masculine principle of gender with positive and the feminine with negative poles of electricity. What? Hold on. This is the line that most ancient Hermetic teachings, which have always identified masculine with what? A beard? No. With positive and feminine negative poles of electricity. Electricity? So you mean this whole time people are arguing about feminine and masculinity, and it has nothing to do with none of this shit. It has everything to do with positive and negative poles of electricity. Now, a word at this point regarding this identification. The public mind has formed an entirely erroneous impression regarding the qualities of so-called negative pole of electricity or magnetized matter. The terms positive and negative are very wrongly applied to this phenomenon by science. The word positive means something real and strong, as compared with negative, unreality or weakness. Nothing is further from the real facts of electricity phenomenon. The so-called negative pole of the battery is really the pole in and by which the generation or reproduction or production of new forms and energy is manifested. There is nothing negative about it. The best scientific authorities now use the word cathode in place of negative. The word cathode coming from the Greek root meaning descent, the path of generation. From the cathode pole emerged the swarm of electrons and corpuscles. From the same pole emerged those wonderful rays, which have revolutionized scientific conception during the past decade. Good question. No. Femininity and masculinity exist. People's concepts are wrong. Right? Their concepts are wrong. Especially when you come from the urban market, you oftentimes are not trained to think abstractly. So you train to think binary, this or that, up or down, left or right, hot or cold, right? So you can't think in nuance. So we look at a dude and be like, oh, he's masculine because he's a man. Has nothing to do with that. Though a masculine energy can be coming off of him, but it's not because he's a man. It's what he's tapped into based on electricity. Same with the woman, but that same dude can also be projecting feminine energy. Has nothing to do with female. It's just the other side of the battery. We have taken these things and put them in social places where they don't belong. Masculinity and femininity are not looks. They are behaviors based on unseen forces in nature. From the cathode pole emerged the swarm of electrons or corpuscles from the same pole whose wonderful rays which have revolutionized scientific conception during the past decade. The cathode pole is the mother of all the strange phenomenon which have rendered useless the old textbooks and which have caused many long accepted theories to be relegated to the scrap pile of scientific speculation. The cathode or negative pole is the mother principle of electrical phenomenon and of the finest forms of matter as yet to known, and is the finest form of matter yet known to science. So you see, we are justified in refusing the use of the term negative in our consideration of the subject, and in insisting upon substituting the word feminine for the old term. The facts that the case bear us out in this without taking the Hermetic teachings into consideration. And so we all shall use the word feminine in the place of negative in speaking of the pole of activity. The latest scientific teachings are that the creative corpuscles or electrons are feminine. Science says they are composed of negative energy. Okay, blah, blah. We said, okay. A feminine corpuscle becomes detached from, or rather leaves a masculine corpuscle and starts a new career. It actively seeks a union with a masculine corpuscle, being urged by the natural impulse to create new forms of matter and energy. One writer goes so far as to use the term, it at once seeks its own volition, a union. This detachment and uniting from the basis of the greater part of the activities of the chemical world. When the feminine corpuscle unites with a masculine corpuscle, a certain process is begun. Notice it has nothing to do with men or women, right? Notice that the language is like completely different than we're used to using on a day-to-day basis, right? Mental gymnastics. This new atom really composed of a union of the masculine and feminine electrons or corpuscles. But when the union is formed, the atom is a separate thing, having certain properties, but no longer manifesting the property of free electricity. The process of detachment or separation of the feminine electrons is called ionization. The electrons or corpuscles are the most active workers in nature's field. Arising from their unions or combinations manifest the very phenomenon of light, heat, electricity, magnetism, attraction, repulsion, chemical affinity, and the reverse and similar phenomena. And all this arises from the operation of the principle of gender on the plane of energy. That chapter continues, but I'm going to stop it there because you see how we're all off. And the weaponization the weaponization of femininity and masculinity are only designed to take you out of seeking more knowledge. Go deeper with everything they have presented to you for your own personal development, so you can begin to look at masculine and femininity in the right way. You could look at something through a masculine lens, just like that. You could look at something through a feminine lens, just like that, right? Depending on what the situation is. You also can look at the masculine and feminine features of nature. It has nothing to do with ego, you, or I. It has nothing to do with being married. It has nothing to do with any of that, right? And people that don't study or read books, people that don't travel to nature, people that don't do anything regarding the occult, people that don't do anything regarding the 7 liberal arts, people that don't do anything regarding the Kabbalah, people that don't read books from the 1800s cannot be the people defining things for you and assigning meanings for you. These people are entertainment based, and I like a good Dougie too, right? But I'm nuanced. I can Dougie with you, and I can read the kybalion with you, right? You got it? So if you really want to get deep with that, get yourself a kybalion, and then you'll understand the bastardization of all these concepts that people are talking about. But it's good for entertainment, right? But it's being weaponized against you, the viewer, against you, the listener, against you, the student. All good? Questions, comments, concerns? Over here, we take old ideals, we kill them off, put them in a body bag, and then we create new ways to look at the world. That's why my name is Body Bag Ken, right? And you are the Body Bag Crew. What are some good books from the 1800s? The Secret Doctrine, Madame Blavatsky. That'll definitely keep you busy. The Secret Doctrine of metaphysical. I have over 100 ebooks from the 1800s. Everything from palmistry to dark magic to dark psychology. I mean, you name it. I just look like this, right? And don't get it twisted. Like, I just look like this, right? Check out Madame Blavatsky, The Secret Doctrine, though, right? You can also read Albert Pike, Morals and Dogma, right? Appreciate you. No questions? Anything? Cool. I don't know, y'all. I don't know whether I'm like Superman or Batman, and I was sent here to save humanity, like like the other heroes. I don't know. Sometimes I have my moments where I don't want to do shit, where I'm like, oh, let the world burn. I don't know if I can be Spider-Man. I don't know if I could be Superman. I don't know if I could be Batman. I don't know. Right? So I have my days. But that doesn't make them better than me. I'm a superhero too. I'm just a nigga with waves. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other. Coin Gang.
The reason why you down, cause somebody stole something from you. They stole your creativity. They stole your innocence. They stole your ability to dream. Well, I came to help you dream again. I came to help you get them dreams back. So you can start using your mind, changing your reality based on your thoughts. The struggle is in your mind, bro. The struggle is in your mind, girl. You can't be a victim in this life. You gotta go get yours. The universe is abundant. Everything on this planet is made to serve you. They got you distracted, thinking everything you need is outside of yourself, but that's the trick right there. I came to wake you up. I came to remind you. I came to tell you that the God that you're looking for is in the mirror. All you gotta do is all you gotta do is have audacity. I want you to dream. I want you to think outside the box. I want you to know there ain't no ceiling. The things that you believe changes your genetic code. You are your thoughts. You picked this life before you came here. So now it's about you turning that tragedy into triumph. The struggle is real, baby. It's all in your mind. All you gotta do is wake up.